Hey YouTube, my name is Raz. I just want to share a little bit of my art history with you. Well, it's really not history because it wasn't that long ago. I started drawing at work on a little pad with a pencil about not even a year ago, back in March this year, which is 2019. And then I got my first digital tablet, I think in July. So I did mostly just little tiny pencil drawings. Now let me just be clear, as you'll see from this here, I absolutely cannot draw. I'm gonna go ahead and get this started. This is a time lapse of my first ever digital painting. And basically I cannot draw at all. Well, now I can a little bit, but when I started, I had literally no formal training of any kind or any experience with using a tablet or anything, but just when I started drawing on paper with my pencil at work, I mean, I was sharpening it and everything, going through erasers like crazy. I just hit this point where I kind of figured it out, and I spent my whole life thinking, oh man, I have no idea how to draw. And you can see here, like, I'm trying so many different things in this. I started out drawing some weird fat guy hanging from a string, and I was like, ooh, what if I make like a swamp monster? And out here I was like, oh, I want to make them have cool scales. And I watched a couple YouTube videos on, like, you know, how to do body proportions and stuff like that, but I have no idea how to do any of it. And so at this point I'm just experimenting with different shapes, and then I decided to draw a background. It looks like I just wanted to get like my base color scheme down, and like I had one in my head. But as you can see, I have a problem. I dance around doing like detail work way too early, like polishing it, and I have no idea how to do perspective. So what you see me doing here is just constantly adjusting that perspective on the foot, or what would it look like, what would be cool. And usually I just kind of stumble into something. And I'm using Procreate here, if you were curious, on the iPad. This was like the iPad 2016 or 2017. I tried a bunch of different teeth and got rid of all I tried using like custom shapes, but it actually comes out super different at the end because I didn't really sit down with a plan on what to draw. I forget how long this really took. If I checked the canvas time, I think it was like 30 hours, but that wasn't drawing because I was doing it a lot at work, where it was just sitting open, or I was just looking at it. So here's my background attempt. This is the first like landscape I ever made, so a lot of it is really off, but I just watched a couple of videos on basic concepts, and I'm playing around with some of the brushes to make like a sky and, you know, stuff like that. So I just made some clouds and some edge lighting, and it came out okay. I mean, you know, it's always hard to judge your own art because you see all the flaws in it. You know, I used the moon for reference here so I could get like the, you know, the darkened spots correct. And I tried a lot of different ways. And one of the things I always struggle with is, you know, I feel bad, you know, even now watching this, I feel bad that I used reference because it feels like a cheat. But even in like the top end digital artist world, if you're making video games, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not taking shortcuts. And it's just, you know, there's a plethora of information and like assets out there for you to grab and just build off of. So like, don't be afraid to use reference. Like, you absolutely should. Really hard, especially, you know, you want to know that what you're drawing looks right. And like, so here I made this, and I was using a soft airbrush brush, you know, in the thing, because I seem to have an affinity for it. I don't know why, I just like the soft brush. And I decided to just see what I could do, because I've never even tried to do anything like this before at all. You know, I've only drawn with a pencil. So this is just me experimenting with things and trying to make them look relatively realistic. And believe it or not, a lot of my familiarity with objects comes from video games I played. So I spend a lot of time when I play games in the menu looking at the graphic settings. So I know what like aliasing is and some of the lens settings in games so you can see kind of what perspective looks like. And then the big one was ambient occlusion. If you ever had that on, it just gives stuff like a soft shadow where two things meet. And you know, so what I end up doing a lot here, you'll see, is like I'll draw an object and I'll give it a side that's facing the light, that's lighter, and then I'll give the other side like a darker, more like right there. See, that's like an edge light, and it makes it look cool. Now, you know, he's starting to look awful. I don't know why I added that crown. It just feels like it made it fit right. I mean, you'll see, like at the end, it just kind of fit him right. And I mean, I tried so many different things here. Definitely not perfect, but I didn't use a reference for like the fish face or anything. I just caught a lot of bass in my life. So a lot of this stuff was just me, you know, trying something out and seeing what stuck. You know, it's just, I guess that's the creative process, or whatever you want to call it. You know, as you can see, like this background doesn't fit this character at all, because like how big is he, right? Like the scale by comparison to that river. It's like, is he standing by the river? Because like we can see a mountain not that far away. It's really, really odd, but that's just because I don't know what I'm doing. But you can see a lot of the stuff, like I had no idea how to make that mouth or that tongue. I just kind of started doing it until I saw something that looked right. I actually kind of have a funny story, and it's the way I first started drawing to where I knew something looked right. I was drawing like female characters, or you know, cat girls or whatever, and they were horrible. And maybe I'll make another video showing them at some point, because I have everything I ever drew from when I started. And as a man, or whatever you want to call it, you know, I find myself attracted to women. And if you're a man out there, and probably women have a similar thing as well, where certain shapes like trigger your brain's attractiveness levels. So you know how like curves on a woman, or you know, muscles on a man, whatever you're into, the shape of them will trigger it in your head. And so when I was drawing with pencil, you know, when I would get a waist curve just right, or where the butt muscle needed to be, or how the breast should sit, you know, realistically or stylized, you know, your brain would go, oh yeah, that's it right there. And so like I would use that to constantly just draw stuff. I would always draw a lot of waists and, you know, chest areas and shoulders, necks, so just like on whatever characters. And it wasn't really that many, but I would work on, you know, one waist. And now you see here, I obviously got tired of the legs, got rid of them and put some claws on them, and I thought it looked really cool. And here I'm doing some edge lighting. I wanted to put a little face on that because it was so cute. And here I grabbed the reference for tentacles so I could get a concept of like how big they should be and where like the stuff was. And you see I'm just like blocking out the background here. And then I just used that reference to like get a concept of like what it would look like. And I was like, okay, cool. I drew the little circles on by hand. And then I actually went in with a soft brush. I was zoomed in a lot here, you can't see it, but I went in with the soft brush, and you know, the harder you press in the middle and then you lighten it on the way out, it gives it that. Now this was all done on basically maybe 2 or 3 layers, because I was not experienced with layers at all at this point. But like for the little suckers there on the tentacle, I just went in with the soft brush and like pushed really hard in the center and then swirled it out and released the pressure. And it just made a nice taper of darkness for making it look like an actual little like octopus sucker or whatever. I drew some little flowers and I figured, okay, I couldn't do legs. Now this was literally me just being like, okay, I can't do legs and they look stupid. So I'm gonna cover it with the ground and make him look like he's bursting out. And you know, it was, I want to say, artistic necessity, because I didn't have the skill at the time, and I don't even know if I do now. A lot of my drawings and paintings, I do them and like halfway through they change into something else, because either I can't do it right or it just doesn't look right with what I've already done. So I just kind of have like this flow. I did all that grass by hand, little piece by piece. As you can see, like, I bounce all over the place, polishing, and then, oh, let me go do this thing. Like, why did I stop the tentacles to draw grass? No idea. But with this one, I became really obsessed with, like, the light's direction, how it was all shining, what the edge lighting would look like. It took me a while to figure out how to make the ground look broken and cracked, because, like I said, this is like my first, you know, painting, like, literally. I think the one I did before this was just like I drew a smiley face. I actually still have them all, so maybe I'll show them at some point. But once I kind of got the concept of what I was doing here to try to make it look like it's a cracked ground and he's coming out, I kind of ran with it. But yeah, there's no reason for me to be doing the ground right now. I didn't even finish the rest. And then when I actually go into a polish phase, it's pretty neat. But if you're struggling with, like, confidence with your art, or you don't think that you can do it, I literally thought my whole life, now I'm 36 now, I thought my whole life that, oh, well, you know, I was always really good at everything, but I could never draw. So I always I even said out loud that, oh, I can do anything, but I can't draw, because I just thought it was a talent that somebody was born with. And I've always been very creative. Like, I could come up with concepts and ideas in my head, but I can never get them to the paper. And I guess, you know, the one thing that really helps is just, you know, when your stuff looks like a kid made it, it's because you are a kid, you know, as far as your level of skill is, you know, between you and somebody who's just starting, you know, like a child, it's the same. You know, you have to get some more experience with it, and then your stuff will look better as you go. And here I'm actually doing some polishing because I feel like it's relatively done. And for a lot of this stuff, you know, I just took selections of stuff that I made and then, like, kind of contorted it with the 3D software. And again, don't feel like you're not 3D software, but, you know, the selection tool in Procreate. You know, a lot of people feel like that's cheating. Even I still do to this day, but it's really not. It's just the way art is done digitally. Take advantage of your tools, you know. Just because, you know, they used to use axes to cut down trees doesn't mean you shouldn't use a chainsaw. But if you see that the pink and green, the stuff that looks like scales on, I actually downloaded a scales brush for Procreate that had, like, a fish scale pattern, like stamps in it. And then I just did one line of each coloring that I wanted. So that was like the pink, the purple, the green. Oh, look. I keep playing with that crown because it looks so cool. So you see back there, I did all the edge lighting for the moon. So I was trying to put the really heavy white moon lighting on the left side. And then I just wanted it really dark on the left. And I kind of overdid it in some spots. And I tried his signature like 30 times. Then I color balanced it. Oh, and that's pretty much it. And the quality here isn't the best because, you know, it was a Procreate recording and I didn't have it set to record high quality because I didn't even know it existed. But he looks gigantic and the perspective is off, and that's the flaws I see. But I can't say I'm not super proud of it. I mean, you know, I put this on a, you know, piece of paper. I mean, maybe not paper, but, you know, I took this from my head and you saw what it started out as, and I made it into something that actually looks like something. I mean, it looks a lot better in real life. But anyway, if you have any questions, leave a comment. If you have any other ideas or anything else you'd like to know, and maybe I'll show some other stuff, let me know what you want to see. Till then, you have a good one. Thanks.